Hey, Shalom Markins of Kamak Passion, James London giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem Chakwadash. Want to give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of James, and Shalom out there to the hopeful elect, pushing his truth in all sincerity. Back again with another video, and there's this post. This is a post, right, from X, right, from the Spectator Index, right, and it says breaking: National Guard is set to be armed in Washington D.C. starting from tonight. Right, so Trump's moving forward with his plans, right, to basically take control of these different places, right? This one being Washington D.C., right? Because in order to bring security, peace, and safety, right? Because apparently these states are not doing a good enough job, and Trump cares about the people, right? So he gonna put in the National Guard, okay, with weapons, right, to secure that place. Right, so this is a significant move forward, towards prophecy, and that Trump in the time to come will have power to produce military force against its own citizens, right? And in a time of crisis, which the time of trouble is coming, right? Okay, Trump is gonna use these powers, or whoever's in office, right? Is gonna use these powers, right, against the people to get that peace and safety, that security that you people are going to be longing for. All right, but like I say, it's a power play. It's positioning themselves and to take power away from the people. Not that you got power, but to abuse his own power, right? To bring in their new order, right? And so when the time comes, Esau is going to be, as the scriptures say, he let me just grab it. Revelation 12:12. It says here, so therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, right? He's going to come with that great wrath. Okay, in the process of bringing in that NWO, right? Because he says, because having a great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time, right? Esau, these elites are trying, looking to wrap things up soon, right? So they're putting all these things in place and pushing the boundaries of everything, okay, in order to get it done, right? Finding all these excuses or creating all these excuses, right, so that they can seize power, like total power, and have you, kept, in in the concentration camps, and have you take the mark of the beast ultimately, right? So that's that's what these moves are. Right? Anyone that doesn't want to, want to play ball with Esau, wants to accept his new order, right? He's gonna use real force against you, right, and put people to death, right? Let me read this from uh, 13. It's like it's 13 and Revelation 13 and 15, right? And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Right? Esau's going to turn into a real demon. I mean, he's always been a demon, but everyone, even the people that support the demon is going to find out he's the demon. Their own citizens. All these Trumpalites, right? They think he's out here trying to, or make America better. Because he's dealing with the immigrants and the crime, the gangs, and all these different types of things, right? But when these methods that he's using are going to turn on onto the supporters, onto the regular people that ain't into crime, that are not immigrants or whatever the case may be, but you don't really feel like you want to be implanted with with RFIDs and stuff like that. You're going to be looked at as an enemy, man, right? And he's going to have license to remove you from the earth, right? And this is why he's coming, with armed forces and whatever, right? And he's going to, point them at his own citizens. So yeah, so this is a move in that direction. All right, Esau is baring his teeth, right? Is what I'm gonna probably call this lesson, right? And I want to read this from Psalms 37, verse 12. The wicked plotteth against the just, right? This is a plot and a scheme, right? And gnasheth upon him with his teeth, right? The wicked are, they're plotting, and this is and gnasheth upon him with his teeth, right? The teeth represents, his military, Esau's military, right? Or his members of war, right? That hold weapons and can kill, right? And Esau has always been known for that because he's blessed with the sword, right? His kingdom, reference to Daniel's vision of the statue, right? The kingdom was made of iron. Esau's kingdom was made of iron, right? And it had teeth, right? And it trod down all the nations around about, right? And this is Esau in his teeth, okay? His military, his ability to wage war against people, right? His guns, his weapons, okay? And it says here, the Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming, right? We see it also. Men, the Lord, we see his day is coming. This is not, ultimately strengthening his position, right? Because this is why he's doing this, because he's thinking he's strengthening his own position, right? So he can claim he's his new world order, right? But really, we see his days coming. He's the day of his fall, right? So the wicked have drawn out the sword, right? Again, speaking about his teeth, right? The wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy and to slay such as be right of conversation, right? And they get ready to get rid of any dissenters, man. Okay, and the top of the list are the Israelites, man. Okay, the men of the Lord, they're out there on the highest bar teaching his truth. Okay, he wants to get rid of us the most. All right, so they'll change the status of people, right, and make you enemy combatants, make you fugitives, make you terrorists or extremists or whatever, all right, to give them the go ahead to come after us, man. And because they ain't gonna paint it like, oh, these men, the Hebrew Israelites, they got the truth. No, they're just gonna paint us as terrorists or something, man. Whatever label they want to slap on us to give them the excuse to lock us up, to kill us, right? And like I said, it's starting, right, all under the guise of protecting the average American or whatever, right? And say especially they're gonna especially come after Jake, all right. It's Psalms 57 verse 4. It says, my soul is among lions, right? Representing our enemies, right? Because our enemy is strong, right? And I lie even among them that are set on fire, even the sons of men, whose teeth are spears and arrows, and their tongue a sharp sword. Right? So just showing you the teeth represents their strength, their military might. Okay, their ability to kill and wage war, right? Because they got all these weapons and you wonder why, years back, we was covering, certain news articles, right, about these the whole thing with the whole police being militarized, right? They were getting in hollow tip bullets and all these different types of things, mass graves and whatever, right? You wonder why these articles came out, and you people just waved them off as conspiracy world, crazy stuff, right? Unconfirmed, unverifiable shit, right? But look at how they're pushing it. And I got something else, another article. Well, I got an article from over here in the UK. Okay, that shows you, man, that these guys, these nations, Esau and their plan, right, is being implemented everywhere. Right, they're planning for this. They're planning, right, for a lot of death, right, as per what the scripture say, part of prophecy, right. This is Ezekiel 21 verse 9. It's the son of man, prophesy and say this, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, say a sword is sharpened and also furbished. Right? They've been giving them gums. They've been doing that training, doing them drills. Right? The jade helms and all that kind of stuff. Right? Look what they're doing. It lines up exactly to things we covered back in the past. It says it is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It containeth the rod of my son as every tree, and he have given it to be furbished that it may be handled. This sword is sharpened and it is furbished to give it into the hands of the slayer. Right, Esau and his motley crew are the slayers. Right, like I said, they've been armed. Right, to be armed in Washington DC starting from tonight, which I believe was last night. I don't know what time it is over there right now, but yeah, they've been given teeth, they've been given swords, right, to enforce, right, to put down people they deem a threat or whatever, right. They're gonna have the ability to do that, right, legally, right. This is crying how, son of man, for it shall be upon my people, right. One thing you mentioned about the gangs. Well, guess what? Unfortunately, a lot of gangs that Esau's targeting, right, are filled up with Jake, right. He ain't gonna go corporate with it. All these corporate mafias that he's running, right. Obviously, he ain't gonna go after them. But all these lower level gangs, the blogs and the cribs and all these, it's full of Jake, right. And obviously, their associates, their affiliates, cousins or whatever, you know what I mean? That they're not in the gang, but they got family that's in the gang and they hang out sometimes. They're all gonna just get caught up in it. So yeah, it's gonna it's gonna affect Jake, right? It's gonna affect you Israelites out there, man. It says cry and howl, son of man, for it shall be upon my people, it shall be upon all the princes of Israel. Terrors by reason of the sword shall be upon my people. Smite therefore upon the fire. All right. So Jake is always the target of these things. The whole immigrant crisis, the Mexicans, the this, the that. Jake is the focus of that. Right. That's why the Jacob's trouble is going to be a real thing, and for some it's already real, But this is just kind of like the beginning, right? This is in Revelation 13 and 11. So I behold another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Right? Dragons are not friendly, right? Dragons have got teeth. Dragons rip and tear and burn, right? And this is what Trump is pushing, right? This very vicious side, this wrathful side, this aggressive side, right? This whole time, you've been voting for these politicians, and they've been playing the game, right? But you all think they're here to help you, man. Okay, so they always got nice words to speak to you, kissing your babies and shit, right? Only to lead to this point, right? To beguile you to lead you to this point, right? Where you're gonna turn all dragon-like on you, come with these harsh laws and ways of handling shit, right? So yeah, he came like a lamb, right? But in the end, he's gonna speak as a dragon, right? And that's exactly what Trump's doing right now. It's Daniel chapter 12 verse 1. At that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that should be found written in the book. All right, so we're heading into a time of trouble such as never has been on the earth, man. And like I said, this is the ante's being upped, right? Progression towards that time is being made. Okay, and like I said, they got all these laws, all these bills that they've passed. They passed behind closed doors or whatever, you know, that are not currently in use. But in the time of trouble, when things are moving fast, these laws and bills, they're going to be there ready to enact, right? So they can get things done quickly. They ain't gonna have to go to Congress and talk about it for fucking weeks and months or whatever, right? It's already gonna be there because it's already been passed, right? So yeah, Trump can just send out the guards and all this kind of stuff and put you in concentration camps and execute you and all these different types of things, chip you and all this shit. Like they can do it, right? And it won't be no long thing, and it'll be perfectly legal. You won't have no legs to stand on because these bills have been passed, even if you didn't know about it. So ain't no one going to defend you in that time. And say shit's about to get worse. But right now, let me grab this other article or this article here. Right, it's from the UK. Right, it says Home Office tenders for mass fatality tents. Right, what are they expecting? The department has awarded several contracts in recent days relating to a major incident resulting in a large number of fatalities. Right, so the government over here is foreseeing, more a major event that's going to create greater fatalities, right? More than what can usually be handled by hospitals and whatever, right? And they say this is something that's been going on for a while. They always had these I don't know, these agreements or these contracts out with these companies or whatever, right? But obviously they're renewing them, increasing them or whatever, right? Because they believe or they foresee that, because you've not been made to feel that way, right? So you don't know something, you're in the dark about something here, but they're planning on something. Like I said, they plan, right? They are planning, they're scheming, right? They know what's up, right? And the smoke screen is because of the whole CV-19 era. Why they're going to be more ready and got more more space to do these things, right? But it could be, it could be used for anything. Yeah, it could be used in case of pestilences. It could be used if, like I said, the National Guard goes out there and puts people down. It could be used a lot of different things, right? But they're obviously planning for an event that's going to happen in the near future, right? So you see this here, right? These tent cities, right? These tents here, right? Inside what looks to be like a football stadium, right? Trying to figure out what stadium that might be, but and we would tell you these places they were being used as detention facilities, right? Because if you've ever been in a football stadium, right, to get out of the building, to get out of the arena is mad. It's like you've got turnstiles and everything. It's not, if it wasn't being manned to let you out, it'd be extremely difficult to get out, right? But yeah, so they can quite use these, multi-purpose these things, right? So yeah, they plan on tending to the sick and dying here or whatever, right? But they can easily just lock you in here too. Have you come here for quote unquote safety? Because chaos out there in the streets, right? You come here, you get chipping stations or whatever. This is multi-purpose, right? And that's why they're being prepared. They, on the face of it, it's because of this and that. Sounds reasonable. Okay, cool. But they're multi-purpose facilities, right? And they're in a place that can easily detain you, right? This arena is effectively a prison, or can be used as a prison. It's just kind of like, I don't know, more open. I don't know, right? But to get out of these facilities is is a task, But anyway, so the Home Office has awarded a series of contracts to prepare for a mass fatality scenario where casualties will need to be treated or stored in huge CV pandemic style marquees. Right? In the chilling echo of the darkest days of the CV-19 crisis, large structures are being ordered in preparation for what the department calls a major incident resulting in a large number of fatalities, which could overwhelm existing body storage capacity. Right, during the pandemic, the government had and military right, like National Guard, they're involved, right, constructed a series of enormous so-called Nightingale hospitals after fears were raised that massive casualty numbers from CV would overwhelm the NHS, as well as treatment beds, and that's something that's getting shut down even more. The NHS is not getting any better, right? More cuts, you know, more layoffs, more strikes, and all different types of things, right? It's breaking down, right? And it's meant to break down. It isn't meant to be able to deal with any type of capacity anymore, right? It's being folded up, man. It's about to pack up shop, right? Because it's not being looked after. It's not being funded, right? The workers are frustrated, not getting paid enough. They're losing, losing houses and whatever because they're not getting paid, right? Right. So it's a very tense situation over there in the NHS, right? It's really collapsing, right? So they're already overwhelmed even right now. Before that, we're right in a pandemic, you know. This is as well as treatment beds, huge morgue facilities were also hastily constructed to bolster capacity, right? Graves, right? And what was something else we covered uh, back in American news, right? All these mass graves, these boxes essentially, man, where you dump a bunch of bodies in them, you know. So thankfully, many of the Nightingale facilities remained underused, but similar preparations now appear to be happening once again as part of the Home Office Mass Fatality Capability Resilience Storage Framework. Long ass fucking titles. Reacting to the publication of some of the contracts, Lee Nallingham, whatever, the interim branch chairman of Reform UK, Ewan Hammonds, wrote on X, this week the Home Office awarded contracts over 1 million to prepare for a mass fatality event, including capacity to start to 700 bodies. Nallingham said, what exactly are they expecting? Right? So we would like to know, right? But we know what's down the road. You know, wherever they say it's for, or, you know, just in case another pandemic comes, we want to be ready. Sure. You know, maybe another pandemic will come. You know, maybe it'll be, more like what the Trump is doing with the Home Office right now, when they put troops on the streets and martial law and all these different types of things, right? And they got license to put you down. You know, maybe we'll be for that, right? One social media user added, logistically speaking, this is a good thing. In principle, in terms of progressing with storage in the eventuality if something happens. However, it is equally terrifying that someone has assessed current storage and is predicting it is not enough. In terms of threats to the UK, the overall level for a terrorism event for England and Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland currently stands at substantial, meaning an attack is likely. Substantial is not the highest level of threat. It is behind severe, meaning an attack is highly likely, and the top level of critical, meaning an attack is highly likely in the near future, right? So all this is to create the idea in people's minds that we're under threat all the time, right? It's never been like there's no threat. There's always some type of threat that's highly likely. Like nothing happens, but for most part nothing happens. But then that one occasion where, you know, someone drives a car down a bridge or something and mows down some people. Oh, that was a great terrorist event we was waiting for. You know, that was the thing that was likely to happen. And it's like, well, yeah, a few people died, but did it really require you to have it at this level of threat? And did it require to have all these, these tents ready for bare people to get, removed from the earth? It sounds a little disproportionate, but it's not really ultimate for these things because, like me understand, a lot of this stuff is just orchestrated anyway. So it's just to further condition the people in the minds of the people that okay, we're under threat, and so we need to keep pushing along with these things, building infrastructure for these things for the time when they decide to, like I said, bare their teeth, turn into that dragon. All right, but in the guise of, oh, we're under threat, there's terrorists out there, there's pandemics out there, or whatever. So we need to do these things and build this and build that, and bring in this law and have you, verified and identified, all these different types of things that they're doing right now. As far as threats from disease go, the UK Health Security Agency, UKHSA, recently published a list of 24 pathogen families, a relatively high, medium, low categorization of pandemic and epidemic potential. The list included terrifying deadly diseases such as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, MERS, Ebola, Zika virus, and of course SARS-CoV-2, otherwise known as the CV-19. All right, so they're preparing your minds. Expect something. Expect something at some point, which is they're going to use to further, bring more things in that's going to be against your interests. So it's all all going on right now. Let's see here. This is Ezekiel 28 verse 23. It says, "For I will send into her pestilence and blood into her streets, right? And the wounded shall be judged in the midst of her by the sword upon her on every side, and they shall know that I am the Lord," right? Because the Most High is prophesied, death and destruction and misery, sorrow for this kingdom, right? To come, right? That's coming in this kingdom. So, we know that this is where it's all ultimately headed, right? The Lord is going to bring more plagues and more pestilences. He's going to bring more death into the world, right? He's going to have Esau turn into that dragon and start acting ruthlessly, right? Come up with the swords, right? With the weapons, with guns, right? And be cold as hell, right? We know this is coming, right? But it's the Most High is really only behind it, okay? Sirach chapter 39 verse 28. Yeah, it says, "There be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes," right? Even Esau is created for vengeance, right? But they've got they got their times coming, as we spoke on earlier, right? We know their time's coming, so we know that this isn't going to work for them, right? But yeah, the Lord's got spirits out here, all different kinds of things going on out here, right? Which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them, right? So you got angels and all kinds of things waiting for the wrath to carry out the wrath of the Lord, the judgment of the Lord, right? Fire and hell and famine and death, right? That's what's being prepared, right? The Most High is making this happen, right? All these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents and sword punishing the wicked to destruction, right? And Esau is part of that sword, right? He's the sword in the left hand of the Lord, right? But like I say, he's going to meet his own demise. Okay, they shall rejoice in his commandment, and they shall be ready upon earth when need is, and when their time is come, they shall not transgress his word, right? So the angels are happy and ready and willing to do the work. They enjoy doing the work of the Lord, right? To bring about this death and destruction. This is 2nd Ezra 16. It's the last one I got here, so we're gonna close it after this. It says, let's see here. I'm gonna read from verse 17, right? It says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, right? So there's gonna be famine. Like I said, there's gonna be pestilences. Esau's gonna be out there with the sword, right? Death is gonna be all around us, man. Right? The world is gonna be in great peril. Right? So the beginning of wars, the powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils, what shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things, they should not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. Things, even though not everybody can afford things, right, remain affordable for the majority of people, right? But that's going to change, right? It ain't going to be affordable for the majority of people. It's not going to be accessible, right? Even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, right? So that goes for here in the so-called first world, where you think shit like that can't happen. You always think your supermarket is going to be filled up. Well, You saw what happened during the CV-19 era. Stores were empty. A lot of shows were empty, man. So it didn't take long. Okay, this is for many for many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Because you're gonna have people raiding one another, man, taking people's lives to get food and water and all that kind of stuff, right? And the dead shall be cast out as dung, right? There's gonna be a lot of death, and people's bodies gonna be laying around, and there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the city shall be cast down. Right? There shall be no man left to till the earth and to sow it, right? So, like I said, there's gonna be a lot of death around, and they're gonna need all these extra facilities to put people in and detain people and all these different things, because prisons are full too. Hospitals are full and prisons are full. So what are you going to do about crime and death, murders and stuff? What are you going to do about all of that? Well, they're releasing guys, they're shortening sentences so they ain't got to send them to prison. Releasing guys and all that kind of stuff. So, it's going to be crazy out here. Right? There's not going to be enough places to put these mad dudes out there and these dead bodies. There's going to be enough places for that. Right? But, they're going to create more of these facilities because for reasons such as that. We need more of these facilities. We need more Guantanamo Bays and stuff like Trump's, doing. The alligator, what do you call it? Alligator Guantanamo or something like that. All these different spaces that they're creating and using, for the future, because they know something. Well, they're planning something, obviously. Right? They're planning something, but not letting you know exactly what that is. They'll just talk about potential threats from terrorism and plagues or whatever. Right? Not understanding that the Esau are looking to roll up on the people at some point. And like I said, you see Trump, he's starting doing that, But, I'm going to end it there. Lord, when this has been edifying, and I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until next time, I say shalom.